Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. You don't know what a blessing it is to be able to care for you and your family in our office, as it is for all of you who are current patients. Love to see all your faces here. So thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I know as a mom myself that Tuesday nights or any night of the week can be really tough to get away and to make the arrangements and to get everything situated. So thank you. A couple housekeeping things. I know many of you do have babysitters and whatnot, so we will honor that, and we will be wrapped up by 8:30 for sure, so you guys can go. So if you have questions, jot them down. I will stay after as long as I need to answer anything that comes up to you during the presentation that you want clarification on. I'm here until they close tonight, so feel free to do that. One thing I wanted to say to Jeff is that he doesn't, I told him this, but I don't think he really knows the magnitude of what his family means in our office. And earlier last month, I had run the Queen Bee Half Marathon. It was kind of a last minute decision. I wasn't quite trained as I should have been. And by mile 10 and a half, or were you guys 10, 11? Kind of the death mile maybe, at least for me it felt that way. I thought I'm on this isolated road. I felt alone. There's nobody there. And I'm in my head, can I do this? I don't think I can do this. I don't think I could finish. And I was so in my head with that. And all of a sudden I hear somebody. And I look over and it's Natalie, his wife. I don't think she was expecting the response of me like tackling her. I'm like, thank you so much. And it was that gift that got me through to the end. God has its way of putting people and things and opportunities in front of us just at the time we need them. And so we all come here tonight with something that I think we're maybe looking for or we want clarification on. And I hope that you keep an open mind about that and you think about that as we move through tonight. And what I'd like you to do first is just close your eyes for a minute. And we have all kinds in the room. We've got parents, we've got grandparents, we've got educators, therapists, and I would love for you to think about what you envisioned your life to be like before you made that transition into motherhood, to parenthood, to grandparenthood, as a teacher, as a therapist. What did you envision? What was your hope for your family that you were about to have? For most of us, I think that was a gorgeous vision we had. We had a huge vision. And I want you now to think about where you are on that pathway. What is the reality of where you are? And now I'd like you to think about where you want to go. Because the beautiful thing is that we don't have to stay stuck where we are. No matter how great things are, we can always strive to have a more enriching life experience. Or no matter how desperate or bad things may feel to you, we don't need to stay stuck there. So I want you to keep that vision in your mind as we move forward tonight of where do you want to go? What would you like to have in your life and for your children and for you? And open your eyes and keep that. I will tell you, the reason that I'm here is because just like all of you, I had this really great vision when I was pregnant with my first daughter, who's 8.5 now. Her name's Lucy. Lived a super healthy lifestyle. We thought we were going to have this gorgeous, beautiful, natural birth. Things were going to be amazing with a daughter now. And I was in labor, we're ready to go. We've got all our birth plan ready and all our stuff. And we get to the hospital, so excited. I couldn't wait to experience this thing that I'd been so excited to experience and really go through this experience of birth. And when the nurse checked me, she said, great, you're 6 centimeters. And for those of you moms, like, yes, 6 centimeters, that's awesome. Doing good. She said, but that's a foot down. Babies shouldn't have feet down first. Babies need to come out with heads first. But Lucy was like this. So they called in the resident OB, and he checked me and said, yep, didn't look at me, made no eye contact with me, said to the nurse, prep her for a C-section. wait, what? At that moment in time, I'll never forget that feeling of literally feeling like the world just stopped in that moment. And all these dreams and all these visions and all this excitement and all this power that I thought I was going to feel by going through this birth process was literally stripped away without even eye contact with me. So we had no choice. So we went, she was born, she had to come out. And what ensued over the next several years, really, is what has driven me to stand here today and talk to you guys. Healthy, super healthy, because we lived a healthy lifestyle. I didn't know, I wish I knew what I knew now to help her. She didn't sleep. How many of you have had kids that don't sleep, babies that don't sleep? Yeah, that's not fun, is it? Because you don't sleep when they don't sleep. She would require this for hours and hours and hours and hours. And my husband, we would joke and say, he should wear a pedometer and see how many laps around our little circle in our house he had to walk with her to get her to sleep. And then pray and hope, oh gosh, I hope I make the transition and you're just so afraid to move. Maybe they're going to wake up. Can I take a step? I know where every creak in the floor is, and I know exactly how to get out. And that went on for over a year. But to compound that, she was what I consider, I don't know why I keep using this baby, but this was her, let's say, literally locked into a state of chronic stress. Not talk to people, would not talk to the world. She had major social anxiety as an infant, as a toddler. And so now I'm starting to really worry. What in the world? Gluten-free, casein-free, took every supplement, fish oil, DHA, probiotics. Why can't I help my kid? I'm a chiropractor. I should know this. I'm healthy. Why is she like this? I was Googling, and I was certain she was going to have selective mutism. I thought, how is she going to go to school? She's not going to talk to people. And that was terrifying for me as she approached 2 years old now, because she still was what I consider locked away. And so in the course of this time, I knew I was pregnant with my second daughter. I knew that I was going to have a different experience. And I did. No C-section. Took care of myself, got adjusted properly during that time, had a natural birth. And boy, that girl's happy. She was different. When I got her home, this baby sleeps. I've heard about people like this. You can lay them down and they just go to sleep. And they engage and they're happy. So now my wheels are turning. I'm like, there's something about this birth process that plays into this. And that's in 2010, when she was born, that I started this journey to learn, how in the world am I going to help my own kid? So that has led me, that journey has continued to intensify to lead me where I am today. We went on to have a third child, and he's just as fun and happy as can be. He's a boy. His energy is a little higher than my girls. Fun and happy, though. But what I want to tell you is that my family is my test lab. So my vision for my kids and my family is to thrive and to experience potential that I know is in them. When I saw Lucy like this and just locked in, I knew that's not her. That's not who she's meant to be. I know there's something else in there that needs to come out. And I will tell you that it's out. And my kids were just in here eating dinner with my husband, and I just looked at her. I said, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to go through this journey to figure all this out so I can not only help her, but help all of your kids. Because I want my kids to thrive, but I also want your kids to thrive, and I want your families to thrive, and I want all of you to have the feeling as a grandparent, as a parent, as a teacher, of feeling truly at ease in your life, and truly feel like you're giving your kids everything they need to be empowered and to thrive. I might carry this doll around for the whole workshop. I kind of like her. Exactly. So, well, where am I going here? So that's a lot about me. I've been a chiropractor for 10 years. The last 6 have been strictly focused on pediatrics and family wellness, and on this pediatric journey that we're on. I opened my own office 2 years ago. We are coming up on our 2-year anniversary after I realized as I learned more and more and more and I started seeing more and more kids, I knew I had a bigger vision. I knew we needed to serve more people and serve them better. So that's what Bright Futures is. That's our office. And even in this year, we have doubled our size and expanded because we're serving so many kids and so many families. And it's a beautiful thing that we have going on. So those are my kids. That's Lucy, her ice cream face, and Claire, my goofball, that's upside down, and then there's Vince, who he's just along for the party. He follows his sisters, and really, kids are meant to be happy. They're meant to be healthy. I get to experience that now, and that's what I want for all of you. That's my why. But this little guy is my inspiration. And it's interesting. His name is Huxley. A year ago, in August, Huxley came to us for immune challenges. He wasn't able to not be sick, really. Constant asthma, allergies, one infection after another. And so we started taking care of him. And after about 3 weeks, I will never forget the day that his mom, Cheryl, brought him in and said he's sick again. We were just at the pediatrician, and they told us that he has pneumonia, and we're on antibiotic. I said, okay. And I looked at him, and I looked at her. I said, you need to go to the hospital. And I won't tell you the events that happened in the office that led me to tell her that, but it shook me to the core of my being. I've never felt the feeling that I had that day in the office with him. So something's not right. Something is not right here. Didn't hear from her, didn't know what happened. It wasn't for a couple weeks that I got a Facebook message, because I think that's the only way she knew how to get that out to everybody. He had brain cancer. And at that time, he had already had surgery. He had DIPG, which is the same type of cancer that Lauren Hill had. And we've learned a lot from him. And a year ago, September, the night before I did our very first Perfect Storm, which was in our office, I had just been at the hospital adjusting him. And being on the floor of a pediatric oncology unit is something no parent should have to experience. No child should have to experience. And so I dedicated that workshop to him. Before our last workshop, he had passed away the week before that. And we were at his funeral. Again, something that no parent should have to go through. And just yesterday, it's funny how things work. I take care of his family. I see his mom on a weekly basis. We haven't talked about him in a while. And just yesterday, the night before we're talking again about the perfect storm, we have this closed door conversation because his birthday's coming up. And so we had a little conversation about that. And what she's going through and what he went through is an inspiration to me. And I will dedicate this workshop again, like every single one that we do, that no matter where you are on your challenges, no matter where your kids are, where you are, there's hope for them. And if there's anything that comes out, if there's nothing that comes out of tonight, just know that all it takes is one step in a different direction for you or your kids to experience something different. So, we love you, little buddy. Sweet little kid. So, let's get started. So this is where we are. These are statistics that are current. I'm not going to read each one, but I don't think that it is a surprise to anybody that I think our kids are kind of sick. In general, as a population, we are not healthy. Adults aren't healthy, kids aren't healthy. We have rampant use of antibiotics, of medications, of kids with labels and diagnoses, more than ever before. And so we're on this road. And it's a road that we don't have to stay on. We're going to show you tonight a different road to be on. So to lighten the mood a little bit, we are going to play a little game. So play along with me. It's an easy test. It takes a minute to come up. It will come up, right? Okay, there we go.
This is an awareness test. How many passes did the team in white make?
What'd you get? Okay. Okay. Oh.
The answer is 13.
There you go.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Who saw it? If you didn't see it, if you haven't seen this. It's really easy to miss something you're not looking for. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Some things that are right under our noses that are happening all the time. They happen with every single one of us, every single day in our lives. Nobody's really noticing it or talking about it. So I want to gain some awareness about what's going on with our kids, what's going on with all of us. Because just because we're here talking about kids, the same pathways, the same systems that create some of the issues that you might be dealing with your kids, they happen in us too. We're going to get some answers. I'm very hopeful that all of you will leave tonight with a greater understanding, but more answers for maybe things that you haven't really figured out. Why is this happening? And just have that feeling something else is going on. There's something under the surface there. And most importantly, we're going to give you an action step. I don't want you to just leave here and say, I've learned a lot. That was really good. I want you to take action. That's the only way information becomes powerful, is when we take action with it. So back when I was growing up, and now that I'm pushing 40, I'm feeling a little old, kind of, these days. But back in the 80s, who remembers I can still picture the green flags hanging in our cafeteria, the Nancy Reagan, just say no to drugs. And you didn't call kids names, right? You don't do drugs. That was kind of like it that we needed to know. A lot of kids have labels behind their names. They have lots of letters. And the letters come with some pretty heavy-duty medications behind them. What's scary to me is that many of these medications that kids are on, the Adderalls, the Prozacs, the Focalins, some of those are Schedule II narcotics, the same as cocaine is a Schedule II narcotic. It activates the same pathways in the brain that cocaine does. And I don't know about you guys, but that's really scary to me. Because a lot of these kids are 6, 7, 8 years old when they first start going on them. And so if you think about it, in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years of being on these narcotics is what they are, what are they going to do when maybe those aren't doing their job anymore? I don't know. Logic tells me maybe they're going to start reaching for stronger things. And that's not okay with me. That's not okay with me to have basically an entire generation being raised essentially on drugs, medicated. So let's find out what else we can do other than that path. So the perfect storm, what is this thing we keep calling the perfect storm? It's not any one thing. That's what you're going to find out. There's not any one ingredient. It's a mixture of things. It's physical, chemical, and emotional stress that happens during critical developmental periods in time, especially prenatal, the birth process, early childhood in particular, which causes this thing that we're going to talk a lot about tonight. It's called subluxation. A subluxation is a misaligned and fixated spinal joint. We'll talk about it, which causes neurological interference and stress. And then finally, we end up with all those things on the bottom, symptoms. Unfortunately, we tend to start at the bottom. We start with the symptoms and figure out how do we fix these symptoms. We're going to go way back. We're going to start in unwinding this path that happens. So we believe there are three types of stressors that go into the body that we all deal with on a regular basis. We're going to just kind of highlight through here. Physical stress is a huge one for our kids. In utero constraint. In utero constraint means that your baby, like Lucy, isn't head down. Your baby's like this. Or even sideways, or twisted, or constrained in any way. That's what in utero constraint is constraint in the uterus. Think about this. So Lucy, my daughter, that was upside down, there's not that much space right here for a baby to be this way. So that's like pushing on the head with a tremendous amount of force. And you imagine she was probably there weeks, maybe months ahead. Imagine a newborn, a couple weeks old. Would you ever pick up a newborn and just smash their head like that? Like instinctively, that doesn't feel good, does it? It's like, that wouldn't be right. Dawn, if I were to hand you a newborn baby, how would you hold the newborn baby?
At my age?
Yeah, there you go. And you pick up the head, right? You see, even Dawn knows. You pick up the head. The head's important, right? We don't know why, but we instinctively know. Make sure you're awake tonight. The head's really important. Why don't we just let heads flop? Why don't we pick babies up like this? It's not right. We're going to find out why it's not right. Did I click that? I think I clicked like 10 slides ahead while I was... All right, let me go back. So physical traumas, the in utero constraint, the birth traumas, cords wrapped around, forceps deliveries, all those things with the delivery process, moving into car seats, baby Bjorns, all the carriers, moving into childhood falls. How many of you have had a baby that has fallen off the bed? Oh, that's happened to me. The changing table? No, I've had the changing table. Coffee table. Steps. Swing sets, monkey bars, swings, back of the couch, off the dresser. It happens to all of us. It happens to all babies. No matter how good of a parent you are, your kids are going to fall. It just is part of it. Then we start getting into computers and iPads and texting, and kids are growing up like this. That's a major problem. We'll get into why. Backpacks, and then just being more sedentary. We're not as active. Physical stressors. So I'm sure we've all seen this, but I used to love funny videos, and my kids actually are old enough now that they love to watch it. Physical trauma. It's funny when I do case histories and I sit down and talk to people, I'm like, so let's talk about some of your past trauma. It's like, I haven't had any. Well, you were born first, and then you did all these things leading up to all the stuff that, the crazy things we do as adults as well. Chemical stress. We could do 2 hours on chemical stress. I would imagine that most of you that came out on a Tuesday night to sit and listen to this are at least relatively aware of some of the main triggers in foods that affect brain function, that affect our kids. Food dyes, chemicals, additives, food being sprayed with Roundup and GMO things, and toothpaste. Jamie and I have had ongoing discussion about the water that we drink. So there's lots of resources. This is not a nutrition workshop. There's lots of resources about that. This is a great movie. I'm not going to play it. I encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about food and the chemical exposure, to look into this documentary. It's very good. And then the big one is the emotional stress. Not only in our kids, but in us. And when us as moms are stressed, worried, anxious, have a lot going on, like Jeff talked about, the stress meter is 100 when you're pregnant, you know what? That stress goes to our kids. And they feel it. And their brains actually can become wired differently in utero due to our stresses that we experience as parents when we're pregnant during the birth process. Stressful, forced emergency deliveries. Oh, that was not good, what I experienced. And any of you that have been in that same situation know that feeling. NICU stays, transitioning to motherhood, even if it's a beautiful transition, it's a transition. Adding more kids to your life. Fast-paced, high-stress life. We all are familiar with that. The process of actually getting labeled to get diagnosed is extremely, not only stressful, but really wrecks with kids' self-esteem and their belief about themselves. Bullying, peer pressure, academic pressure, worry, fatigue, and exhaustion of parents. It just goes on and on and on. There's so much emotional stress. So how does this all work? Why do I keep skipping that slide? All right, so how does chiropractic fit into this? So all those stressors that we take in, the physical traumas, the chemical traumas, the emotional traumas, all gets filtered through this thing we call the nervous system. The nervous system's job is to perceive the environment, which is those 3 T's, the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors we experience, and to coordinate then the behavior of all other cells. Every single cell of your body is coordinated and controlled through the central nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that go out. It's the communication highway of the body. And we have that coin there, that picture of the coin, because it's really 2 sides of the coin. The one side of the coin is all of the environment, the stressors of the environment. The nervous system needs to take those, adapt to it, and then figure out an output. It's the nervous system's job to do that. And just like Jeff said, stressors are still there. If we wanted to have no stress, people like talk about reducing stress. For most of us, we'd have to get rid of our kids. We'd have to get rid of our spouses. We'd have to, go live on a beach somewhere. And that's not going to happen. So let's learn how to adapt to it. And that's the function of the nervous system. And that is what we deal with, is the nervous system. So here's how this all works. I'm back to this slide that I've been at 3 times already. So you have a folder here. Get out your folder. On the back of your folder, there's a really nice little handout. So this is the spine. Spine is really important because it is what connects. It's the interface between the brain and the nervous system, the spinal cord, and all of this communication that happens through the body. When you read this when you look at this chart, all of these tissues that are in this first column here, this is where all the nerves go from the spine. And these are things on the end that can happen if the nerve communication isn't happening properly due to these subluxations that we talk about. On the inside of your chart, this is what we're really going to talk a lot about. This is gas versus brake. And we talk a lot about this in our office. The central nervous system operates on 2 modes. It's either on brake pedal mode. That's the things that help us heal. That's the part that helps us sleep. That's the part that helps us, where our immune system, our growth, our development all comes from this side. On the flip side, there's the gas pedal mode. Gas pedal mode is our stress. That is the fight or flight response. They're both important. We need them both. Problems occur when the physical, emotional, and chemical stresses that we just talked about, when they build up, they accumulate in the system and they cause those subluxations. The subluxation then kicks off a message to the brain that we're going to go through right now, and it sends the body into this chronic and constant state of fight or flight, of stress, not emotional stress, neurological stress, which can result in all the stuff on the bottom. So again, the subluxation is physical, chemical, emotional stress that accumulates, and we are going to walk through all of these things. This is the perfect storm as we go through these 5 pieces here. Dyskinesia. All this means, don't let the word scare you. All dyskinesia is what everybody typically thinks of a chiropractor. When you think of a chiropractor, what do you think? Oh, my neck hurts, right? And that's what that is. That's a misaligned spinal joint. When the spine is essentially crooked. It's bent. It's not moving the way it should. That's step one. Subluxation is the misalignment of the spine. But more importantly, what happens when the spine gets misaligned through the physical, chemical, and emotional stress is that it gets fixated. The body wants to protect itself. And when there's a trauma, the kids falling off the bikes, all that stuff, that makes the spine unstable. And the body wants to protect itself. And so what it does is it starts making all the scar tissue and hardening the joint spaces and decreasing the joint spaces in an effort to protect an area that's not quite stable anymore. That is what kicks off this neurological chain of events. All this is a crooked, jammed, bent spinal joint. It's what happens after that that's really the problem here. So where does this begin? And we've reiterated the birth process here, but we're actually going to take a look at what happens in a very typical C-section birth. If you're squeamish, just know that.
Okay. Put some pressure up here.
How does that make you feel? Not good, right? Did you see the bending and the twisting and the pulling? Even in a vaginal delivery, I collaborate with several doulas. Doulas are there to support the mom during labor. And I'll always talk to them after when I see a pregnant mom and their baby. I say, how was the delivery? How was the doctor's hands? Were they pulling? More often than not, they will tell me when there's been excessive force and pulling and twisting, even in a vaginal delivery, not to mention forceps, vacuum, things like that. But if you look on your little handout that's there, look at that part of the spine that gets pulled out on the back. So if you look at the upper cervical area, that's the whole autonomic nervous system. That's the immune system, that's the digestive system. Look at all these things on this box. For many of us, we can check off those boxes that our kids have experienced. And when they enter the world getting pulled back and forth and traction and twisting, that creates the dyskinesia that we're talking about. That creates the fixation that then interferes with that nerve transmission. You have an article. This one. This is some current research. It just came out 2015, end of the year last year. Somatic dysfunction, same thing. Subluxation means the same thing. The spinal joint isn't moving properly. And they did a study on healthy newborns. And you see in the results there, they say the actual where the joint restriction took place. But if you look at the percentages, 99%, 95%, 91%, somatic dysfunction of the cranial, cervical, lumbar, and sacral regions was common in healthy newborns. It's common, upwards of 85% to 99% common. So when I say if you've been born, you most likely, that's where this process starts, because of that process. What is happening to my thing? Sorry. Why is that important? Why is that skipping that? There, I'm skipping one slide that's important. There we go. Sorry. So the dyskinesia, the lack of movement is important because it kicks off this process that we call disafferentation. This is the meat of why our kids are doing what they're doing, why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. Disafferentation says that it's not the output. We focus a lot on output, the behaviors that we see our kids doing on the outside, but it really is what their brains are getting fed through the nervous system up into them that controls how they respond on the outside. There are 7 senses. These 2 words, they're big words, but they're really important. Proprioception and nociception. They're opposites of each other. If there's any athletes in here, you've probably had proprioception training, balance training, things like that. It's really important for the brain to know where it is in space. That's proprioception. Proprioception is when you stand up. Everybody stand up. Let's get up. I want you to play along with me. Put your feet together and close your eyes. Does anybody feel themselves swaying a little bit? That's proprioception. Open your eyes, have a seat. Thank you. That's proprioception. Proprioception is the sense that your brain knows where your body is in space without having to use vision to see it. It's a critical component of brain function that allows the brain and the body to stay in normal function. The opposite of that is what we call nociception. Nociception is noise. It's negative. It's called noxious stimuli to the brain. It opposes that proprioception. And then we have the vestibular sense of balance. So if anybody felt themselves swaying, that's one of the tests that we do in the office. I have you stand and close your eyes. And I want to see what your body does without vision. What is the brain doing under the surface? If you start to sway, do it on your kids when you get home. See what they do. Stand feet together, have them close their eyes. The more dysfunction you have going through the spine, the more you're going to end up, really, the body's going to have to really work overtime to figure out where it is. It's an easy test. So proprioception is really important. Neurological stimulation from movement is what charges the battery's brain. So if the brain is our, say, central conductor, the battery of the body, it needs this movement to get it to feel happy and to allow it to stay in a state of balance and moving between that gas pedal and brake pedal. Who has ever had a really stressful day at work? You do, and you come home, you're like, I just want to go for a run, or I just want to go work out. Or you wake up in the morning like, I know I want to feel great today, I'm going to go to the gym. And don't you feel better after you do that? You get some activity, you get some movement. Why is that? Do you know why that is? You release endorphins and all that, but your brain gets happy neurotransmitters through movement. Movement is what charges the brain. 90% of what the brain deals with at all times is figuring out this balance between proprioception, which is calming input, and nociception, which is noisy input. 60% of that comes just from the movement of the spine. So not only whole body movement, but the movement of each spinal joint. So each spinal joint has a range of motion that it should go through when it's functioning normally. And when it's doing that, the brain's getting all this happy input coming to it. As soon as there's a little bit of a trauma, any of those 3 T's, the movement starts to go down. And when the movement goes down, the noise goes up. And as the brain gets bombarded with this noise, it starts to shift into that gas pedal mode, that fight or flight operation. Here's one more thing that's important. If 60% of the proprioception comes through the spine, 33 of that comes just from the upper neck. What did we just watch? We just watched how babies are born. They're getting twisted, they're getting pulled, they're getting all this aggravation at the most important part of the body that keeps the brain happy. And we wonder, why in the world are our kids so stressed out? They're getting it from birth. Okay, they're getting it from birth. So the gate theory means that when one goes up, the other must go down. It's like two rivers coming into the brain. Whichever river is more powerful is the one that overpowers. So the more you can bend and move the spine, the more those spinal joints are all working to their maximum potential, the more calming input you get. That's why the adjustments work so good. When we make an adjustment and give motion back to the spine, it calms the brain down. It allows focus. The more the joints are stuck and rigid and fixed, the more of that noise that's happening. Being in a Metallica concert 24/7, because that's what it is. It's a noise. It sounds like to our kids and to us all the time, not literally, but if you have this noise in your brain, and if we left this on for a while, what would you start to do? It's hard to listen to me, right? And then you would probably get a little fidgety. And then if I kept talking, somebody's like, yeah, all right. But if this goes on long enough, finally you're probably going to stop listening to me. How many of you have kids that seem like they don't listen to you? You tell them something and they just don't listen. They can't listen. They're listening to this instead of you. And then they get, you know, when this overtakes the brain, it can't focus, right? Should I turn it off or keep it going? So that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like to be in the body of a child, and it's especially difficult with children because they don't have the buffering system. It happens with us. How it looks for us is brain fog, depression, anxiety, losing the memory, can't remember. Did you ever go somewhere and you're like, why am I here? I know I was supposed to be here for something. I don't know what that was. That's that. It just looks different in us. We don't run around bouncing off the walls. Kids do. They can't buffer it. So, going back to that, the misalignment causes the fixation, which is being stuck, and it just allows this cycle to keep going. The stress just stays stuck. This is an occupational therapy video, and it really is a great illustration. This is a really good description to highlight what we're talking about here.
Some see food as a pile of toxic goo that hurts their mouth and jangles their taste buds. School might be a mysterious place where things don't make much sense. If this sounds like you may have sensory processing disorder, and we're going to explain it here. Your body has 7 senses: vision in your eyes, hearing in your ears, touch in your skin, taste in your mouth, and smell in your nose. And you have 2 movement senses: your muscles and your sense of balance. In sensory processing disorder, these senses don't communicate right with your brain. Think of the nerves connecting your brain and senses as a set of roads. Those roads should be smooth superhighways, muscles, and your sense of balance. In sensory processing disorder, these senses don't communicate right with your brain.
Look at that picture. Even though it's a crayon drawing, it's actually quite accurate to see all this information that's coming up through the body. Do you see where it crosses over and it filters up? You have another article, a research I'm studying in here. I'm going to keep playing that in a minute, but I want this. It's a good picture to see. The cerebellum is really, really, really important to how the rest of the brain works. You see all these roads come up, 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 and then they crisscross and they come up through the brain right at the top of the spine, right at where the babies get pulled out, right at that C1 cervical vertebra level. That's a very critical relay station that goes up to the brain. This is the brain. This part in the back of the brain, that's the cerebellum. That's what this article is talking about. And I highlighted a couple sentences here that I'm going to go back to, but I just want to show you that, and I'll come back to it. I wanted to stop that here so you can see that that's where all this information that's coming from inside the whole body has to come up through the spine, up the spinal cord, and there's all these relay centers neurologically at that level right there going up to the rest of the brain.
Think of the nerves connecting your brain and senses as a set of roads. Those roads should be smooth superhighways so that the senses and brain can communicate fast. If you have sensory processing disorder, then some of your roads are bumpy and rough. You can also think of the senses as having a broken volume control. If the volume is too high, you'll feel your senses too strongly. If the volume is too low, you won't feel sensation at all. In fact, you'll want more. Some kids overcome these problems as they grow older. Others need help. Help is usually occupational therapy, and it's fun. Occupational therapy helps build up the connections between your senses and your brain. The more you do, the stronger and smoother they get, kind of like paving those roads. After a while, you'll learn to slow down and sit still, to pay attention, to eat, to be comfortable and happy doing movement. It takes time. There's homework, too. But the more you work at it, the better it gets. Billy Bouncy and can't sit.
Does that make sense? We work with a lot of occupational therapists, and the work we do really goes hand in hand. When the subluxations, when the spinal joints are misaligned, when they're fixated, when they're stuck, it is like a bumpy road. The brain can't get its messages going through correctly, and you need to smooth the roads, and that's what the adjustments do. And the work that occupational therapists do help to kind of pave those roads and make them smooth. Okay. But this article that I showed you, there's a couple of key things about how this is related directly to autism. But they're saying here that cerebellar injury, and that injury can come from the birth process, being that those spinal joints sit right at the cerebellum. There's attachments neurologically that come right to the upper cervical level. It causes disruptions in how other areas of the brain develop an ability to interpret external stimuli and to organize internal processes. The cerebellum, if there's dysfunction right here, it affects all areas of the brain because that is the relay center. And interesting, Journal of Pediatrics found that individuals who experienced cerebellar damage at birth were 40 times more likely to score highly on autism screening tests. There is an influence on wider neural development when there's an injury at that level. And we just read from the other research study that happens in upwards of 80 to 90 to 99% of kids. And so we wonder, why is this all happening? And is drugs and medication the answer? Or can we go and start smoothing and correcting these roads from the inside? So the communication, it's jammed, it's blocked. The brain stem sits right at that C1, that upper cervical vertebra. It also becomes involved. The brain stem is very critical to the function of all internal processes. Moving on to the next level, the next layer of this. So if that isn't bad enough, we take it one layer deeper. This is called dysautonomia. Dysautonomia is an imbalance in the function of the autonomic nervous system. Central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, same thing. The autonomic nervous system is everything your body does internally to regulate itself that you don't need to think about. It's what keeps your heart beating when you're asleep. It's what keeps your lungs moving. It's a subconscious process. Okay? It also controls all other major systems, the immune system, the digestive system, and the endocrine system, so all the hormones. This is the connection. This is the connection between, when someone says, how in the world, you're a chiropractor, how in the world can you help, digestive issues, hormonal issues, immune challenges? It's because of these connections. The central nervous system controls all of it. And when there's a disruption and there's the noise, that Metallica, when the Metallica is blasting and blasting and blasting, that's a stress to the brain. The brain perceives that as a threat, and it kicks off this process of fight or flight. It kicks off the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that when the caveman is down by the watering hole and he's looking for food and a tiger comes out, he's either going to fight or he's going to flight. And if he's got half a brain, he's going to flight. He's not going to try to fight the tiger. And so let's think about when you're running from something, if you're truly in a survival situation, what happens? You need lots of energy to your muscles, right? Your body is not concerned about digesting its food when it's running for its life. So it needs to go to the muscles, lots of muscle tension and tightness. There's also certain things that's going to raise the heartbeat. Heart's going to be racing in preparation to get blood out to all the muscles. The eyes are going to dilate. Digestion's going to shut down. Hormonal function, it's going to cease. How many people, you don't need to raise your hand, but have had trouble conceiving? Hormonal issues. Female, menstrual cycle issues. Bodies shut down. Constipation. I see constipation in digestive issues in so many females. They're on survival. Your body is shut down. It is not processing and eliminating food. That's a basic function. Because your body's running from a bear. It's running from a tiger all the time. Muscle tightness. Why are my muscles so tight? Why can't I relax? Your body's running from a bear. It's the Metallica that's kicking off this process. We've got to be able to balance. We need that system. I want to know that if a burglar comes into my house, that I'm going to get up and I'm going to get my kids and I'm going to get out. I need that survival mechanism. We need it. We just can't live there. And that's the problem. That really, truly is the problem, that we are living constantly. Our kids are living in stress. They're being chased from tigers all the time. And they're burning out their adrenals. They're burning out the resources, and it's caused a problem. It ends up when you're 30, 40. A lot of my issues that I see with my females, headaches, hormonal dysfunctions, like I said, constipation, digestive issues. We've got to be able to move back and forth. The neurology of stress, that's exactly what it is. That's stimulus. As soon as a stimulus of threat, whether it's real or perceived, that's the thing that's crazy about it, is it doesn't even have to be real. We could be laying on the beach, but we've got these systems operating, and our bodies are responding as if we're running from a tiger. Goes into the central nervous system, the stress and anxiety centers, especially if these stresses occur at birth, when the nerves and the connections in the brain are starting to be formed, and they're starting to wire and figure themselves out. If that stress is present from birth, the stress and anxiety center is going to be the amygdala. It's a part of the brain. It's in the really deep. It's called the limbic center of the brain. But it's going to get really big, and it's going to start to overtake the other processes. That's where the emotional and instinctual memories dominate. How many of us operate just on our emotions? These centers are being activated. The hippocampus, this is the learning center, it says here. It alters the ability to focus, and it inhibits factual learning. When we're overrun by our emotions because our brain is perceiving stress, we can't focus and we can't think because the messages aren't getting to the frontal cortex, which is where the higher level thinking needs to happen. This continues on to what's called the HPA axis. This is hormonal menstrual cycle issues, 1,000% all the way on that. One important, very important nerve. So what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas, and I'm not talking about the city. Vagus nerve, and you've got an article, one more research article that I gave you on that. Huge cranial nerve. So there's 10 cranial nerves that come out from the brain. They originate in the brain. Most of them stay inside the brain. The vagus nerve is the only one that comes out from the brain, and it goes to the rest of the body. And it comes out of the brain right here. Are we getting the message that this part of the body is super important? And this is also where that birth trauma happens. So look where the vagus nerve goes. I don't know if you can see very good. But it goes to the heart, it goes to the lungs, it goes to all the digestive organs, all of the reproductive organs. It feeds into all of them. This is the gut-brain connection. We talk about, I have that gut feeling. Because your gut literally can connect to your brain. This is that mechanism. This is the pathway between the gut and the brain. And they're doing more and more research. Medical doctors, they are trying to find a medical device to stimulate this vagus nerve because there's more and more research happening that shows how important the function of this one nerve is in overall body function. In your article, the vagal innervation of the gut and the immune system. I just highlighted a couple things that I'll read, even though you got it. But the central nervous system interacts dynamically with the immune system to modulate inflammation. Accumulating evidence supports the idea that an intricate communication network exists between the nervous and the immune system, and that the crosstalk could play a crucial role in the regulation of the immune response. What are allergies? Body takes the environment as a threat. Something as simple as a peanut or grass or pollen becomes the tiger, and the body kicks off this response. It's not just an immune system problem, it's also a nervous system problem. They talk to each other, they communicate with each other. If you look at it, you can kind of see this general area. I'm not going to read all of it, but it goes through all of these pathways that affect hormones. How much infertility do we have now? A ton of it. A ton of infertility. Neurotransmitters run through the same thing. My last thing, I'll read this. Consequently, it is now clear that the nervous system is able to regulate inflammation in peripheral tissues, which means outside the body, or out in the legs and arms, and to restore local immune homeostasis. Homeostasis means balance. When we get the nervous system balanced and adapting properly, the immune system follows suit. We always tell our patients, if you're feeling sick, come in, get an adjustment. Somebody doesn't look at me like, what are you talking about? Why would I come get an adjustment when I don't feel good? What's the connection there? This is the connection. Stimulate the vagus nerve, get an adjustment. Sometimes I'll sit and I will just stimulate on babies. That's pretty much what I do in an infant adjustment. My baby. My baby is just stimulate the vagus nerve. Give that baby an adjustment, open the vagus nerve. Gut problems. So many babies come to us with digestive and reflux, and they're so uncomfortable. You open that up, and they can go at ease. They can function normally. Normal function. That's what we want. We just want normal function. And unfortunately, when the restrictions happen, the body kicks off these responses that are normal in a survival mode. We shouldn't be operating in survival mode all the time. So here's all of the things that the vagus nerve does. Social and emotional recognition and expression, that's important. Lucy, when she was a baby, her vagus nerve was not working right? She's locked in. How many of your kids, lack of eye contact? How many kids that you see disconnected socially, emotionally, not able to have appropriate emotional responses at the appropriate time? Speech and communication, sensory regulation. I see kids that can't wear socks. They can't wear tags. The sensory system is on such high alert that now socks are a threat. Tags are a threat. Calming and relaxing. When we unwind the system and let the vagus function, it brings calming and relaxing. It slows down the respiration and the cardiac systems. Speaking of which, let's go back to that for a second. When you're under this fight or flight all the time, what's going to happen? The heart rate is going to be going. Arteries constrict. Cardiovascular issues. Digestive motility and relaxation. Immune boosting and anti-inflammatory, really, really important. Really, really important. And in many cases, upwards of 99% dysfunctional from birth. So here's the bottom line. You can't be in growth and protection at the same time. You can't do it. The body does not have, we all like to say we want to be in balance, and I want my life to be in balance. There's no such thing as balance. You're either over here or you're over here. You're either in fight or flight or you're in growth and development. You can't be in both at the same time. Where are you? It's the ability to move back and forth at will and at the appropriate times. That's what allows health to actually happen. The last, or not the last D, almost the last D, dyskinesis is the third result of this chain now where you get this misguided energy. The body doesn't even know where to put its energy because it's been so dysregulated over a period of time. And that dysregulation can come from the environment. It can come from inside the body. It can come from the emotions. So we could think ourselves into these situations as well. It doesn't have to be a car accident. It can just be the things that we think about every single day. And the effects of those reactions throughout the organism. This is errors in output, energy output. How many kids do you see that just can't sit still? This is errors in energy output. They can't calm themselves down. And the final result of all this is the final D, and that is truly being disconnected. Being literally disconnected within the brain and the body, within the child themselves, the child with their family, the child with their environment. We want to start reconnecting our kids. Because when we can reconnect our kids, and when we can reconnect ourselves, we can thrive. We can move from running from this tiger that doesn't exist to truly being able to have normal function, to experience life, and to enjoy life. The neat thing is that we have a way to help. So in our office, what's really cool about it is that, and what Jeff said, that our evaluation process, we have technology in our office that I know nobody else has in our area. We can measure every single piece of that chain of events. We can measure on infants all the way up. There's no radiation. We're not putting anything in your body. We just had a brand new baby that we saw this week. We scanned him. We can see exactly on the scan where his system is stressed, where his nervous system is stressed. I went through the report today. I said, here's what we're going to talk about today. This is the disafferentation. This is the dysautonomia. We can see it. We could show you. So when we can test it, we can help it. And we can measure that. So when we can test and when we find exactly what's going on with you, with your child, with your family, we know how to unwind it. We know exactly how to adjust, where to adjust, and then we measure it. The adjustment, it restores proper motion. That gets rid of that dyskinesia, the stuck joint. When the joint becomes back to its normal range of motion, we can get back that proprioception, the calming input to the brain, and start to dampen down that metallica. When that happens, the autonomic nervous system isn't racing on fight or flight anymore. It can start to come back into normal balance and start to pump the brakes, we say, start to calm down. And finally, we can restore energy and organization back to normal levels. You can sit calmly. And so our vision in our office is a world filled with people functioning at 100%. And when I say functioning at 100%, that's what I mean. I want that function to be at maximum potential. We want people to be living with purpose and vitality and connection within themselves, literally the neurological connections within their families, and then out within the community at large. So we have action steps. I promised you that we'd have action steps for you. So the action steps that I will give to you is to evaluate what are your 3 T's, your 3 stressors, your physical stressors. What are your postures through the day? How much exercise do you get during the day? How do you sleep at night? How much time are you on computers and your cell phones? Think about that, yourselves and your kids. To reduce those, be conscious about them. Your chemical stressors. What kinds of foods are you nourishing your body with? Are they nourishing your body, or is it just something that you're eating that's laden literally with chemicals? What kinds of hair products and beauty products and all that stuff? The environment, the chemical toxicity. And then the big one is the emotional piece. What are you thinking about all day long? What are you thinking about all day long? What do you tell yourself in your mind? Are you worried? Are you anxious? Are you living to enjoy life where you are? Or are you thinking about what happened in the past, where you need to be in the future? All those things matter so much. We want to increase our ability to adapt, and that's exactly what we do. And find out if we can help you. In your folders, if you are interested in finding out if your wheels are spinning, saying, I wonder if this is my kid. I wonder if this is why I'm tired. I wonder if this is why I feel anxious. I wonder if this is why I seem to get sick every winter over and over. I wonder if this is why my husband has that low back pain and his legs are, in pain every day. Find out if we can help. In your folders, you have a blue form. If you're interested, fill it out. The girls will be at the desk. Last time we did this, I will tell you we had a line from there back to about there. And it was about 45 minutes. So if you would like an appointment, I'll tell you to get up and get in the front of the line. Because I want to thank you for being here and spending some time with us tonight. If you called our office today or yesterday and want an appointment, it's $150 to get the first evaluation, to go through the scans, to dive into your history with me. And then also that includes your second day, which is your report, where we're going to go into exactly what's going on, where you are, where we'd like you to be, and how we're going to get you there. Okay, we'll go over all of that. For you guys tonight is $75. Okay? When you come in, you or your child, you'll get scanned. Kids love to get scanned. We have cute little gowns for them to wear. They're Mickey Mouse, they're Minnie Mouse. Ashley does all the scans for us. And kids love it. It's fun. We won't put you in a Minnie or Mickey Mouse gown unless you really want one. And then you'll get that detailed report of findings that we just talked about. And then what we do is we adjust you. We start adjusting and get you on a care plan that's tailored to you, that's going to help restore all those things. So to wrap it up, we have a choice. And we've kind of been talking a couple times, we've mentioned which road are we on? There's lots of roads that we can choose from in life. And it truly is our choice, how we want to experience our life. If you're not happy on that road you're on, you can make a different choice.
Our lives are full of choices. The decisions that we make take us down roads and on journeys that are all leading us somewhere. Some roads take us to where we want to go, to places we only dreamed and hoped for, while others may not. How do we make the right choice when we are surrounded by seemingly endless possibilities, twists, turns, and potential dead ends? All life can be narrowed down to two simple choices, two paths. The first, leading only to mediocrity, lives that are characterized by the status quo, benchmarked by the majority, the norm. We see it every day and hear stories of loved ones caught on a path, taking them nowhere, carrying them further from the futures they desire. Their destination, survival. While the second path is one that leads to something greater, lives filled with hope, joy, vitality. Here we chase our dreams, reach our goals, and at the end of our days, we look back on our lives and the choices we made without regret. On this path, we trade survival for thrival. This is the path of vitalism, of chiropractic. As human beings, we were created to do more than simply survive. Our innate potential calls out to us from within, begging us to thrive.
We want to empower you to thrive. I want to empower you to just make conscious choices. Whether that includes care with us or not, I hope that you take one thing and apply it to tomorrow to make tomorrow different. I just put this slide in there yesterday. I wish I could, I don't know, maybe I can zoom in. I don't want to zoom in. This is me. This was a little adventure that Ashley and I actually went to learn. We were away for 4 days at an intensive immersion retreat, learning more about our scanning technology, learning more about how to help. And part of that is so we could understand and help you guys better, we have to learn more about ourselves and face our fears and face our limitations and know that we are more powerful than we thought we ever were, right? Yep. And so we climbed up this pole. This pole was, how tall was that pole? 40 feet? 30 feet? Okay. 30 feet. It felt like 40 feet. Or more. Really tall. We climbed up the top of the pole. And that was really scary to be. And to figure out how to just get that foot up 4 more inches to get on the top of the pole took a lot. And what it took was being able to release the limiting thoughts, the limiting beliefs that hold us back. We all have them. I have them. You have them. Our kids have them more than ever. Our kids have them. But when we stood up on the pole, we found ease, and we found beauty, and we found something within ourselves that we didn't know we had before we pushed to that level. And we jumped, and we flew, and we felt free. And my thought of that is are you ready to let your family fly? What is it that's holding you back from just saying, I could pick my foot up 4 more inches and do something a little bit different? It's not easy. It's not always comfortable. But the rewards are amazing. We're here to support you. I'm on this journey with every single one of you. Just because I'm the one teaching doesn't mean I don't also experience all of that with you guys. And just like Jeff said, we truly become a family in our office. And I will leave you with one last thing, is hope. Because we believe that there is hope, and we see it. I get to see it every single day I go to work.
Change the world. I realize this may be a shock, but happiness comes from within is a lie, and money will make me happy. So in 30 years, I will tell my children they are not the most important thing in my life. My employer will know that I have my priorities straight because work is more important than family. I tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together. But this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all of this will come true unless we choose to reverse it. There is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It will be evident that my peers and I care about this earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. Experts tell me this is a quick fix society, but this will not be true in my era. Families stayed together once upon a time. I tell you this, family is more important than work. I have my priorities straight because my employer will know that they are not the most important thing in my life. So in 30 years, I will tell my children, money will make me happy is a lie, and true happiness comes from within. I realize this may be a shock, but I can change the world, and I refuse to believe that I am part of a lost generation.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.